All right. Welcome, broad New York stereotypes, to Geek Salad Retro Movie Reviews from the Geek Salad Podcast. I'm Andy.
Hey, and I'm Mike.
Hey, look at here. Look at them, my balls. And welcome to another installment in our month of Disney movies, where we talk about the movies that occurred post-Walt's death during what we affectionately now call the slide.
Oh, well, somewhat, yeah.
A bit, yeah. And tonight we are covering 1988's Oliver and Company. Now you said you had never seen this movie before, right?
I mean, I'd heard the songs, but
Right.
I'd never seen the movie before.
Okay, and I'd seen this like once before, and then I rewatched it for the review. I got a question for you, Mike. How is this not a Don Bluth film?
I mean, you got Dom DeLuise.
I was just gonna say that. It's like I'm watching this movie and I wanted so badly to text you, how is this not a Don Bluth film? I didn't realize that you hadn't watched it yet. And then I'm like, and then Dom DeLuise comes in. I'm like, how is this not a Don Bluth film?
Yeah, my feeling is Katzenberg was like, Bluth has been kind of kicking our ass. Hey, you know what? Let's grab his good luck charm and see if that helps.
Yeah, I don't know what the turnaround time animation-wise for this, whether or not this actually could have legitimately been a response to An American Tail. Oh, you got your own cat right back there, huh?
Yeah, I got my Oliver A back here. Of course, his name is Shadow.
You're right. He's not a marmalade. I got to tell you, man, this movie did nothing for me.
Wow,
like,
we're kind of
nothing for me.
We're kind of similar to Grey Mouse Detective, except our positions are swapped here. Where I thought this movie was charming and fun.
Yeah, I couldn't. There was so much about this movie that part of it is, and this is just, when we think about the Disney aesthetic, especially in their animated films, this legitimately felt like a Don Bluth movie, like a later and Don Bluth movie, like post-American Tail, like A Land Before Time, or All Dogs Go to Heaven, or that semblance of movies. The animation style was very different, and not like in a remember we talked last week about the Great Mouse Detective, and how the Great Mouse Detective very much had that feel of Mickey's Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
This didn't feel like this. This felt like it had been sent off to another studio to do the animation. There was none like that. It didn't have the Disney magic, this is one of the few movies that was kind of like takes place in its present day.
Yeah.
This was a bad era to try to do that in, because it just, the second you see the dude in the tracksuit, listening to the Scratchy records, it immediately dates this movie, and not in a way that, like, say, 101 Dalmatians, which is also a present day thing, doesn't feel as dated as something like this. This feels horrifically dated.
I didn't find it all that much dated. I mean, I felt it was like product of its time, but I mean, it never intended to be anything more than like a late 80s movie. So I didn't match that.
Yeah.
I think one of the reasons it kind of looked a little bit different than anything Disney had done before is I think this was like the first movie that didn't have any of the old nine men working on it.
That's part of it. Also, George Scribner did not do much with Disney after this. So you had that. This movie, getting back to like the time and place. The thing with Disney movies is that Disney movies, no matter when they take place, feel timeless. And this doesn't feel timeless. This feels like very much a product of its era, in a way that, like, the two bookends to it, The Great Mouse Detective and The Little Mermaid, feel a little more timeless, even though they take place at very specific, certain times in the past. They still have that timeless feel to them. This is why we go back to The Little Mermaid time and time again. This is why we go back to Beauty and the Beast time and time again. And this movie is just kind of vestige of, like it's a Disney movie. It's not the worst of the worst. That is reserved for things like Chicken Little. Maybe that's our next year's project. We talk about the post. They now work in competition with Pixar movies.
I have never seen Chicken Little. I've never seen Home on the Range. I've never seen any
yeah.
of those. Like, well,
Chicken
I have
Little.
seen
Yeah.
Meet the Robinsons.
Well, I know that's one of Jonna's favorite Disney movies.
Yeah.
No, Chicken Little is an absolutely hateful movie. It is just, there is nothing to recommend that movie. But with this one here, it just felt like, the songs. We all know the songs. But do the songs fit anywhere? Or was it more of the songs don't do anything to further the plot? Maybe the closest thing that does come to further the plot is Why Should I Worry? Everything else made it feel like it was you're playing pop songs at a movie, and it's there to create music video style montages more than an actual, something, a mechanism that discusses plot, introduces character.
Well, I mean, it opens with Once Upon a Time in New York City, which was written by Howard Ashman.
Right. It was actually co-written by, because I think Dan Hartman was the primary songwriter on most of these. You know him from the Streets of Fire soundtrack with I Can Dream About You.
That it was co-written by Barry Mann.
Barry Mann, okay. That was the other thing too, is that there was no. That's the thing I love about like Disney movies, especially Disney musicals. That one voice that moves things through, and even if the songs themselves have a different tone, different vibe to them, Moana's the perfect example for that. This was like, because there were so many different hands writing the stories, it felt disjointed. It didn't feel this movie kind of felt slapped together.
Well, that was Katzenberg's idea, actually.
I'm sure it was. I don't doubt that Katzenberg's one of the worst things that happened to these movies.
Yeah, Katzenberg was not a good thing to happen to Disney animation. But I will say, like Once Upon a Time in New York City, I didn't mind. I thought it was a nice way to kick it off. Why Should I Worry is obviously fantastic. In Good Company, I thought it was a charming little song. Streets of Gold and Perfect isn't easy. Neither one, both of them felt like they're kind of tacked on.
Yeah.
Neither one felt like they were a full song. And I mean, which is a shame, because you got Ruth Pointer in to sing Streets of Gold.
Right.
So, I mean, that's a lot of talent to waste on like a minute and a half song at most.
About a minute and a half of music, and a song that just like, it doesn't do anything to further the plot. It doesn't really do anything to introduce character. It does nothing to that song does, and a lot of these songs really do nothing to serve the story.
Yeah. And Perfect isn't easy. I mean, honestly, I liked a lot of the characters, but Georgette, I didn't see why she was in the movie.
Honestly, she is in the movie so Cheech Marin's very questionable choices as the Chihuahua, as Tito the Chihuahua.
Apparently the director said, "Hey, dude, go nuts," because they needed the Chihuahua energy, and Cheech Marin gave him. So
right. Well, and that's the thing with at this point in time, Cheech Marin was done with Cheech and Chong, and he was living off of that Born in East LA thing. And that carried him comfortably up into The Lion King.
Yeah.
Because even in The Lion King, he's got the voice, he's got a very unmistakable voice.
Yeah.
But it's like he didn't have to play it up as much. And I mean, but what's the poodle's name again? Because I'm forgetting it.
Georgette.
Yeah, Georgette is. First of all, Georgette is. Hey, we got Bette Midler. What are we gonna do with her? But also just so Tito had someone to like sexually harass the entire movie.
Yeah, I mean, he was trying to be charming to her, but yeah, I mean, I didn't mind Tito too much, but Georgette, you did not need her in the movie. She really didn't
No.
do anything.
Well, the other reason why she was in there, so you could actually get a Disney-style musical number out of it, which at this point was like, you're trying this now?
Yeah.
You're doing this a half hour into the movie? You're finally going to put in an hour and 17-minute movie, this is where you're going to put your Disney song before we go back to pop songs. And quite honestly, they pretty much forget, after that moment, they forget about songs altogether until the Why Should I Worry reprise at the end.
Yeah. The songs are not the reason you go to this movie, other than maybe Why Should I Worry, which is just a fantastic song.
Right, which again is this movie's standing legacy.
Yeah. That
is really the one thing that people will remember from this movie. It's not Billy Joel's acting, because, oh my God, is it bad. It's...
I will say, it is absolutely not a perfect movie. I will completely agree.
Right.
I don't know. Dodgers, when they get Oliver back, and Dodgers like, well, if you like that girl, might as well just go. And then that doesn't really go anywhere. And then he once they're trying to rescue it, they're all buddies again. So that little dip right there is I don't get why that's there, but
I guarantee there was story that probably never made it past the sketch phase.
Oh yeah, no. There are, especially in the climax, there's a lot where okay, they clearly cut out a scene there.
Yeah. There's a lot going on with this. The better actors are woefully underutilized. I mean, at this point, I feel like Bette Midler was kind of doing the Bette Midler thing. She had just kind of had her career resurgence. And she was essentially just playing loud bitches at this point.
Yeah,
you look at her film work leading up to this. Bound Not Beverly Hills, Ruthless People,
yeah.
Outrageous Fortune. These were the movies that she was doing just prior to Oliver and Company. Robert Loggia is woefully underused in this movie.
I mean,
woefully.
Honestly, if I hadn't looked it up and saw it was Robert Loggia, I'd be like, "What?
Would never have known."
They got George C. Scott for 2 movies in a row. What the hell? It sounds like he's pulling off his best George C. Scott impression in this one.
Yeah, look out, Loggia.
Yeah, I mean, he's there to be the villain and nothing more.
Well, he's Sykes. I mean, Bill Sykes has always been the terrifying villain, but Bill Sykes in Oliver is a bigger presence than Sykes is in this. I love looking at the trivia and the goofs on IMDb for this.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing that they list on here, as I pull it up, the Brooklyn Bridge does not have subway tracks.
Yeah.
The Brooklyn Bridge is solely a bridge for cars.
And
out of everything that they tried, I'll give the animators a lot of credit. They took a lot of time to painstakingly recreate New York City at that point, including a lot of restaurants like McDonald's and stuff like that did not pay them advertising, but they wanted to make it as familiar as possible. And then they had to add the subway tracks on the Brooklyn Bridge.
Yeah, the climax is... It could have been done better. Absolutely.
It's confusing. Honestly, that's the biggest thing about it. It's confusing.
Yeah, they go down on the motor scooter, and then somehow he manages to get a full-length long, gigantic sedan down those stairs, around the corner, onto the tracks, ditches the wheels, and then just becomes a regular... For one, that would be sending electricity coursing through the frame of that car.
Yeah.
So Robert Loggia's character would be completely dead before
they
even do anything.
But don't forget, these are big, sturdy '80s cars, not this weak ass shit that we drive now.
Yeah. And let's electrocute the 2 Dobermans before you blow up Robert Loggia.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot about that climax that leaves much to be desired.
There's a lot of mixed messages with this. The other thing too with this type of thing, any adaptation of Oliver, you have to remember Oliver is not a children's story.
No.
It is very much not a children's story, and even the musical understood that.
Yeah.
The musical's got some fun songs in it, but Bill fucking murders. Was it Sally?
Yes, I believe in the
Oh, crap! I can't remember.
hold on.
Yeah, it's gonna drive me nuts.
Yeah,
And he's hanged.
Nancy,
Yeah. He murders her. He is hanged, visibly, slips, and hangs himself.
yeah.
So it's...
Yeah, I mean, I can't fault it for that because in the original Little Mermaid, Ariel gets turned into a pile of sea foam.
Right, I understand. Yeah, I know that. I know that. But they have found better material that they can make kid friendly.
Yeah, this was just like, I think this was just Eisner and Katzenberg like, dude, Black Cauldron was a failure. We got to have something real fast, real quick. What do we got idea? Oliver with dogs. Put it.
Yeah, there we go. Oliver's with a cat and a bunch of dogs. There we go.
Yeah.
Broad stereotypes. Stop drooling. You've struck oil. So I'm sorry. I won't let go of that. It's the funny thing is too. When we talked about this last week with the Great Mouse Detective, that in Waking Sleeping Beauty, neither of these movies even warranted as much as a mention.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost like they went right from the Black Cauldron to the Little Mermaid.
Yeah, I mean, on the plus with the broad stereotypes, at least they got someone that actually is Hispanic to do the voice of Tito.
That is very true.
They could have
got the guy who's willing.
You're a white actor, but you can do a weird, really racist, Mexican accent, can't you?
See, we got Cheech Marin to do all the Mexicans. We'll find a white guy for the Asian characters, which fortunately there were none in this movie.
No.
Oh my god!
And
that would
even
have been
for
a disaster.
Even for Rita, they got Shirley
Ralph. Yeah. Who is also a really good singer, and I feel like they just kind of pulled that thing that they usually do in this era, where it's like, oh, you're a good singer, that's fine. We got another singer to sing your part.
I mean, honestly, out of all the dogs, Rita was my favorite because she was the most down to earth, I think.
Well, she was definitely the most down to earth. Everybody else was just there to kind of play their characters out. I mean, Winston, not Winston. Winston was Einstein. The Einstein, yeah. Well, you had Einstein, who was Richard Mulligan, who you can definitely tell Richard Mulligan's voice when you hear it. Who was it? Francis. Roscoe Lee Brown was Francis.
Don't call him Frankie.
Yeah. I don't know, man. It's just like, I understand that there is a very specific love for this movie, and I don't know how much of that is rooted in just pure nostalgia.
Honestly, I don't think it's 100% rooted in nostalgia because, like I said, this is the very first time I've seen the movie, and I thought it was kind of fun. I thought it was cute. Right. I mean, obviously not the best Disney movie I've ever seen,
right. But well, with that said, though, let's see how this sticks with you in a few years. If this is one of those ones that just does become kind of forgettable, because there have been Disney movies I've liked in the past that I'm like, do I remember liking that one or not? I don't remember. I might have to watch that again.
Yeah, I mean, like Great Mouse Detective and this movie are both pretty much exactly the same length. For me, Great Mouse Detective felt as short as it was. This one, it felt short, but it didn't feel truncated. It felt like, I mean, they still managed to tell a solid story. Yeah, the ending was absolutely chopped up and edited.
It can't stick that third act landing.
Yeah, but that's how I felt about Great Mouse Detective as well. It's just that the rest of the Great Mouse Detective didn't work for me as well as this one, because this one had that cutesy factor that I kind of get into.
Okay. All right. That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. I mean, it's just it's interesting because this is it. This is the last one before Little Mermaid comes out. Before Little Mermaid kind of creates. Little Mermaid stands in the same way that Tangled kind of stands in.
Yeah.
For the next Renaissance.
Yeah. They both kind of kick off an era.
Yeah. It's so. Yeah, they're both the movies. They were the ones that kicked it off, but it took another movie for it to soar to the upper echelon. With Beauty and the Beast and then Frozen.
Yeah.
Which it's interesting how that plays out, because you don't really You don't tend to see that. Now, this movie itself was not a failure. I mean, it
Oh,
recouped
not
a
by a long
little
shot.
over twice its budget back.
It got actually kind of almost 4 times its budget back.
I'm looking at the IMDb. So it cost $31 million to make,
Yeah.
and it took in over twice
Okay.
as much. So it
Yeah.
took in 74.1 million
Yeah.
worldwide.
I'm looking at the I'm on Wikipedia, and they've got the world the lifetime
Yeah.
lifetime gross domestic is 74, and worldwide a little bit over 121.
Okay. Yeah,
So
the numbers I'm looking at, because back in '88 they weren't tracking global as closely.
yeah.
So that actually takes some doing to do. Now the funny thing about this movie too is I remember when this movie came out on VHS, because it came out 8 years after its initial release.
96.
It came out in '96.
And I still didn't watch it back then. I don't know why. This was actually one of those movies that I was like, along with actually Great Mouse Detective, I was just like, I really want to see this movie. I really want to see this movie. And I just never did. It just kind of fell through the cracks.
That's interesting, because I mean, it definitely, this era is kind of up your alley, so it's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
You didn't see this, and Great Mouse Detective for that matter, that you hadn't seen these before.
Yeah, I think it was mainly because, like, until when did Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 come out?
91.
90. Okay, because for the longest time, I'm not sure why, my parents just did not let us go see movies.
Yeah.
And it was really not like the first one I really remember seeing in theaters was TMNT 2. So until so 91 is the first time I actually started seeing any movies in theaters.
Right.
And so this one was just one like I never got to see in theaters. We never rented on VHS.
No, it makes sense if you didn't rent it on VHS. I mean, you were like 18 years old when this came out on VHS. So
yeah.
So I mean, 96.
Yeah.
It's a safe bet. You were graduating high school.
Yeah.
But there's a thing too. This was one of those movies that fell through the cracks. All of a sudden, somebody remembered it, and all of a sudden, the demand for the VHS came out. And okay, so this is all Suncoast stuff. That this and the Black Cauldron both had they both got belated VHS releases, roughly at about the same point.
Wow.
Yeah. So that, I mean, obviously, The Little Mermaid made a big splash, no pun intended, on
no,
home
you
video.
mean that pun, sir. That was a good pun. You mean it.
But yeah, so that's, I mean, I don't really have much else I can say about Oliver and Company. I'm glad you liked it, because I was just watching this movie, and it's just, again, it had all the earmark, even the animation style and the voice talents that they were using really just made this feel like it's late era Don Bluth, like Troll in Central Park Don Bluth, Penguin and the Pebble Don Bluth, both who had voices with Dom DeLuise.
I mean, I don't think Don Bluth made a movie that didn't have Dom DeLuise in it.
I honestly don't think he did either.
Yeah.
Maybe The Land Before Time.
I'm not sure about Land Before Time.
The original one, not all those direct-to-video crap things that I get subjected to at Christmas time every year.
Yeah, I haven't watched Land Before Time in ages.
I don't think I've ever seen it all the way through, because I was nearly an adult
times,
when that movie came out.
Yeah, I've seen it many times, but it's not one I've ever felt the need to go back to.
Yeah. So I mean, overall, it was worth the rewatch. I didn't outright. Again, this isn't the bottom of the Disney animated barrel.
No.
It truly isn't. Again, I really feel like that honor is going to Chicken Little. If we ever were to rank all the animated movies, Chicken Little is just like probably the worst.
Have you ever seen Home on the Range?
Actually, no, I haven't.
So
I've been
that one
avoiding
may,
it, but I'm looking for the excuse to probably have to watch it at some point. So
from what I've heard, have a lot of liquor.
I'm sure. I'm sure. So anyway, I don't know. Do you got anything else to say about Oliver and Company? Or are we moving on?
No, I
All right.
I mean,
Well,
I liked most of the characters. I thought Fagin was a really fun character. Tom
I
DeLuise
did
brought a lot to him. I thought.
even. Yeah, it's just it's you hear Don DeLuise's voice, you can't disassociate with Don DeLuise. I really hated the character design. I mean, if they were,
design.
I'll tip their my hat to them if they're like, okay, what can we do to make him look less Jewish? Because that was the whole thing with Fagin in Dickens and in Oliver, even in the Artful Dodger. Which, by the way, if you haven't seen the Artful Dodger, fantastic TV show. So
Yeah.
it's oh god, the kid from Love Actually, Sangster. Now you're gonna make me look this up. So it's about the Artful Dodger, Thomas Brodie Sangster. He escapes London, joins a naval crew, becomes a naval surgeon, and ends up in Australia. And essentially, their penal colony slash new colony. And he's making a decent life for himself, and then Fagin comes back. Fagin is arrested, brought to the island, played by David Thewlis.
Oh,
It's crazy too because he kind of looks like Jeffrey Rush. His head is shaved. He's still got the beard, but his head is shaved. The two of them work really, really well together. It's fantastic. It really is good. I love Thomas Brodie Sangster, so I enjoyed it a lot. It definitely is worth a watch.
but that's not what we're watching next week.
No, it isn't. In fact, I don't even know if I want to reveal next week's, only because I have a thought in my head, my tiny little head. I might have a thought, but we will address that offline.
I thought I smelled something smoking.
Yeah. And it wasn't my burning pizza stone in my oven right now.
Oh.
These are impossible to clean. They truly are impossible to clean.
Yeah, they are.
But we will talk about that later. So we want to know, what are your thoughts on Oliver and Company? Have you gone back and watched this recently, or is everything like the sweet, sweet marshmallow of your childhood? I don't know. It could be, but it's on Disney Plus, so you can go check that out. Let us know. Leave a like, comment below. Thumbs up, subscribe. You know the deal. We're not sponsored by anybody, so I can't talk about NordVPN. And you can follow us on the socials, Geek Salad Podcast, on Facebook, Geek Salad Radio, on Twitter, Blue Sky, and Threads. And Mike and I host a little podcast called Geek Salad. Check it out wherever you get your podcast, because it's a lawless wasteland of podcast apps now, trying to take that Stitcher and Google Podcast listening time.
Yeah.
So anyway, until next time, I'm Andy.
I'm Mike.
Go forth and be nerdful. We will talk to you later.
Bye-bye.